Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Sunny, aka the Oracle of Alexandria, and today I have another new Oracle deck to review for you. So I bought this deck to pair with the Hocus Pocus Tarot. There weren't really many options to bring out the sort of Halloween colors of the Hocus Pocus Tarot, and I really didn't have anything that came close to it. I came across the Witch's Wisdom Oracle, and I wound up really falling in love with it, even just from the online listing. Obviously, it's not a perfect deck, but I mean, is there really such a thing as a perfect deck? I guess that is subjective, but yeah, overall, I really enjoy it, and I am excited to share it with you. So, the Witch's Wisdom Oracle card deck is made by, the book, I guess, is written by, and the concepts, etc., are done by Barbara Micklejohn-Free and Flavia Kate Peters. And they are two, as far as I know, they are two kind of popular authors and writers in the magical Wiccan pagan communities. So if you've heard those names before, if they sound familiar, there's probably a good reason for that. This is actually an older deck. It's from 2016. So I don't know how popular these two are now, but back in the day, they were pretty, their names were pretty common. The deck is illustrated by Richard Crooks. And on the back here, we have a 48 card and guidebook set illustrated by Richard Crooks. Do you sense anticipation at the prospect of re-engaging with the wisdom of the old ways? Each card will speak to you of methods, spells, and magic that connect you with the elements, mystical realms, and spirit to bring about a more powerful sense of positivity and change in your life. These cards can be used by a seasoned witch or one who is dabbling in the path of the wise. Venture down this magical avenue and draw upon ancient wisdom that is still relevant today. The deck contains 48 cards full of the potency of the magic of the craft, key focus words, a detailed guidebook on how to use the information, sample spreads, easy to remember and repeat invocations, a detailed reading, and factual information about each tool and more. And of course, this deck is published by Llewellyn and also Solaris Limited, I guess. Okay, so the box is your typical standard box. It's very good quality. No complaints with the packaging at all. It's just plain on the inside. So, all right, the cards come wrapped in this nice little plastic band, and I just slide mine on and off, and they have a very nice silvery gilding on the edge. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and set the cards aside for now so that we can focus on the book. Where to begin with this book? I honestly can't even tell you everything, tell you all of my thoughts on this book, because we would be here all day. The book is solid as far as the meanings for the various cards. The information is good. The divinatory information is good, etc. The deck itself is great. It has a nice array of cards and their meanings. But there are issues. So the introduction to the book, the deck rather, has a bit of a persecution complex, and I hate saying that. I hate to have to say that, but unfortunately it does. It presents this very stratified idea of quote-unquote old religions as magic and witchcraft tolerant, and the new religions, which are not specifically named, but obviously probably Christianity, they are obviously not magic tolerant. They depict witches as let me just, I don't want to quote out of context, so let me just, here, I'll read it for you. The witch has been rather mockingly personified, particularly in Hollywood films like The Wizard of Oz. Okay, but The Wizard of Oz, yeah, it had the Wicked Witch who was melted by water and who had green skin and a long cartoonish nose and stuff. But then you also had Glenda the Good Witch. And I mean, witches had dual representation there. So, I mean, then you've got, the series Bewitched, which, tried to present witches as empathetic people, humans, and witchcraft and so on, as things that are not satanic and evil. I mean, it obviously it hasn't been perfect. Then you also have the Blair Witch Project, which obviously presents witches as evil. You've got Hocus Pocus, which is a movie I love. Obviously, I wouldn't have bought the tarot deck to pair with this if I didn't. But again, the depiction of witches and witchcraft in there is a bit, I mean, if you are familiar with the community, you'll know what I'm trying to say, that, the depictions they're not perfect, but they're also not the worst ever, every single time. Okay, sorry about that. I had to step away for just a moment. So anyway, the book if you are familiar, again, with the community, you've been around, you've probably heard the Burning Times information. We'll just say it like that. This idea of quote unquote the Burning Times is historically contested. I don't do magic. I don't identify as a witch. I have many friends who do, and I'm cool with it. It doesn't bother me. But I am not extremely well informed. I'm someone who's like on the periphery of the community. I'm not really in the community. So, I'm aware of some of the discourse in the community and so on. And I mean, again, this is from 2016. So I'm really not surprised it's in there, because this discourse has really blown up more and been more heavily discussed in recent years. Still, it's a little off-putting. And if you're someone like me who is not in the community, who doesn't have a lot of experience with the community, and this is one of your first decks, this might give you a bit of a polarized idea of things and conception of things. So I don't really like that aspect of the book, where it is low key, it's not overt, but there is a sort of persecution complex there. And obviously, witches and pagans, there are incidents in modern society where our rights are not respected. But overall, I would say that, witches and pagans are tolerated more so than this book kind of wants us to believe at times. My other issue with the book is that there are a lot of typos and a lot of editing issues. But when I say a lot, I mean a lot. It is... for a deck that is this old, you would think that they would have had an editor to kind of find all of the issues and fix them over the years for recent printings of the deck. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So, let's see. I have a notepad here with a few... let's see. Page 11, okay. That's why I'm looking on page 9, and it's actually on page 11 here. So the book frequently has a spacing issue, where a word will be broken up when it doesn't need to be. So I'm assuming, like here you have holds. I'm assuming it's not, there's a missing hyphen there. I'm assuming it's an editing issue. There's also a place where it's like 2 pages back to back. So in this invocation here, we have the element of earth, or the element to call is earth. See, connect, restore, and then rebirth. Obviously that's meant to be connect, and then they did it again in the very next one here. There's an issue with, let's see, a typo with the word familiar. Okay, I don't want to spend more time on this than I need to. I thought I had seen a spelling issue on these 2 pages, but now I can't find it. It might be just blending in with the wall of text that I'm just not seeing, but in any case, the book is full of issues like that. And I feel like because it is an older deck, the editing issues should have been sorted out long before now. For example, there was a release of the Star Tarot where the Emperor card had a spelling issue on it, and that was fixed. So it used to say Emperor, and now it says Emperor properly. So, but I guess the guidebook isn't as essential as the cards. Some people, maybe even most experienced readers probably aren't going to rely on the book itself too much because the cards are very good. Something that I do want to mention, though, before I move on, concerning the persecution complex that I mentioned earlier, and this kind of polarizing discussion within the book. Quote unquote, old religion was not always magic friendly, and depictions of witches in quote unquote old religion was not always friendly or tolerant either. Wicca is not old religion. It's very new. It may be built on a foundation of, old traditional ancestral folkloric concepts and ideas, drawing from many different cultures, but it is not particularly old. I mean, 100 years, is that very old? Not really. That's pretty recent. But in ancient times, there were many negative representations of witches and witchcraft. And one that I am most familiar with is from this book here, The Golden Ass. The Golden Ass is a book written by Apuleius, I'm not sure how to say that, but he was a Latin Roman author around in, like 1st, 2nd century, I believe, maybe as late as the 3rd century. I don't think so, though. But this text is often hailed as a mystery religion text because the final chapter of the book deals with the mysteries of the goddess Isis. And it is a very beautiful chapter. The book itself has a lot of colorful content. I don't recommend anyone under like 17, 18 reading it personally. It's not a book for children, that's for sure. The book opens with a depiction of witches that is very, you want to call it mocking. It is extremely mocking. It depicts witches as totally depraved, as insecure women out to humiliate and disempower men. And it's really not flattering at all. It also depicts witches as women who cannot be faithful to their husbands and who use their magic to satisfy their desires, which, I'm not here to judge, but that's what the book does. That is the bias of the book. And there are reasons for that. If, this interests you, there's a lot of scholarly discussion on this book, its themes and its meanings, etc. But, this is an example of a Roman pagan person, possibly an initiate into the mysteries of Isis, who wrote a book that does not look kindly upon magical practitioners, which is interesting because he was actually put on trial for practicing magic himself. And he managed to get himself off the hook through his knowledge of rhetoric and discourse and law. But, I believe the first 10 chapters of this book are not original to Apuleius. Rather, he borrowed them from somewhere else and then kind of edited and changed them to suit his narrative more. The final chapter, I believe, is the chapter that is mostly his own unique work. And so we could say that Apuleius himself was totally into magic because he did defend the practice of magic to a degree. I mean, maybe specific types of magic. Again, if this is a topic that interests you, I definitely recommend looking into it because it is interesting. But, this book, it's not friendly to witches, to magic workers in any sense of the word. And so this idea that quote-unquote old religion was tolerant and friendly to witchcraft, it depends on the region. It depends on the time period. If we're talking ancient Egypt, then yeah, ancient Egypt was extremely magic friendly. But if we're talking Greece and Rome, not so much. And unfortunately, that anti-magic bias actually continues today in modern pagan communities. So this book, painting everything with a broad brush that, all of the quote-unquote old religions are friendly to magic and all of the new religions are not, that's not true. I've known Christian witches. There are traditions of Christian magic. That's where most of our modern magic comes from, is from the Christian continuation of the grimoire traditions, for example. So, yeah, just... The book is not bad. The information for the cards is serviceable. I mean, it's not the most amazing stuff I've ever read. It was kind of a dry read. But, I mean, it works. It's good. It's just that this kind of agenda of the authors, I don't know if agenda is the right word, but their stance on these issues is very polarized, and they are very vocal about it in a somewhat subtle way. They're not very direct. They don't say things explicitly, but it is there. And so I worry about people having this as their first sort of, their first sort of introduction to these kind of topics. They might be pushed off of it, or they might be indoctrinated into things, into a certain perception of things, that is. And, the reason this concerns me is because when I was new to the pagan community, I did get indoctrinated into a specific set of beliefs. And so, this book is a little heavy in that regard, or at least it's written with a heavy hand. And so that does bother me a little bit. But I mean, as far as practicality and usefulness, it's fine. I have no issues with the information in the cards, with the spreads provided by the book. They're all wonderful. It's just the subtext, and sometimes not exactly subtext, of the Burning Times ideas that do bother me a little bit. And unfortunately, it is sprinkled throughout, since that is the theme of the deck, is dealing with witches and their traditional wisdom. So that is something to keep in mind if you decide to pick up this oracle. And despite the flaws in the book, I would definitely recommend it to anyone interested in picking it up, because it is a fantastic deck. It is a very solid, a very good divination tool. Like, I have no issues with the cards themselves and how they work when reading with them. It's just some of the information here in the booklet does, rub me the wrong way a little bit. So, all right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the cards. So, the cardstock is maybe a little thicker than playing cardstock. It's not the thinnest I've ever seen. It's not the best I've ever seen either. The gilding is very nice, this silver gilding, and the coloring on the deck in general is very well done. I really like the back of the cards here. So all in all, it's decent quality. I am happy with it. All right, so one thing that may put people off with the artwork is that we have sort of digital artwork, and some images are better than others in that regard. Some look really like low quality computer generated images, and some look great. So it kind of runs the gamut of great images. Like this one is fine. I don't really have any issues with it. If I look really closely, I could say, yeah, this looks, this looks fake. It looks Photoshop or whatever. But I mean, other than that, for me, I thought that would bother me a little bit more, and it didn't. I think the deck is kind of on the line for me in terms of the art being too computer generated and, not obviously computer generated enough that it doesn't bother me. So the first card in the deck, and they are in alphabetical order, we have air, and the keyword for air is imagination. And we have altar, and this one here you can definitely see is more CGI. The keyword for altar is dedication, and the individual elements here on the altar, including the cauldron in the background, will come out in individual cards later, including the Athame, the Book of Shadows, etc. So, ancestors, and the keyword for ancestors is remembrance. Athame, and the keyword for Athame is boundaries. I should also note, I think, that the cards are matte. They're not glossy. There is a bit of a sheen on them from my light, but it's not because they're heavily glossed or anything like that. As a matter of fact, the back of the cards is more glossy, silky smooth than the front of the cards. The front of the cards are very matte, and so they do feel nice in your hand. They do slide nicely, and so on and so forth. So, okay. Next we have Beltane, and the keyword for that is fertility. And also, I should mention, I think, for those who are in the LGBTQ community, this deck in the guidebook does have your typical Wiccan binary between masculine and feminine, and the Lord and the Lady and the God and the Goddess type of speech and type of language. So, if that bothers you, if you're in the LGBT community, that might be something else to keep in mind. But again, I mean, it doesn't bother me that much. Of course, I'm not really picky about it. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it was something that made Wicca and the Wiccan community, for me, this fascination with everything having a gender and everything being either male or female, etc. It was something that made the Wiccan community not so welcoming for someone like me. But I mean, I don't think it's so heavy-handed that it's obnoxious, but it is present. And that's the thing, and again, it is a deck from 2016. It is Wiccan. I mean, so, that's kind of to be expected. So also something to be aware of if that's an issue for you. Okay, so we have Book of Shadows, and the keyword here is secret. Then we have Broomstick, and the keyword is clearance. I really like the artwork for this one. All right, Candles, and the keyword is magic. And I love that they have multiple candles here in different colors. I think that is so wonderful. Cauldron, containment. Chalice, fulfillment. Cloak, concealment. Earth, grounding. Familiar, guardian. Fire, passion. Handfasting, union. I really like this one too. Hearth, homecoming. Herbal kitchen, alchemist. So I want to take a moment and just say that the art, it's serviceable. mean, we've seen several cards by now, so the art itself is fine. It's not particularly symbolism rich, so that it's going to evoke a lot of diverse meanings for a single card. Generally, depending on how well educated you are on the topics within the book, you might be able to eke out different meanings from, for example, something like herbal kitchen. You could come up with a lot of meanings from this, but for something like hearth, for example, homecoming, maybe not quite as many. And the artwork isn't going to evoke a lot of intuitive hits that will give you a broad range of potential meanings. It is a little more narrow, but I think that the deck itself is diverse enough in its topics to really be versatile and useful. So there is also that to keep in mind. Anyway, we have Hex, and the keyword is banishment. High Priestess, High Priest, and the keyword is responsibility. Homeland, and the keyword is foundation. Imbolc, and the keyword is awakening. We have lady or goddess, and the keyword is feminine. I like that they used feminine rather than female because, for me personally, I don't see the divine as having a sex like female or male. I see them as polarities like feminine and masculine. So for me, I do really like that they used that word instead. All right, we have Litha and intensification. That's another very beautiful card. We have the Lord or God and masculine. I'm not going to try to pronounce this because I know that I will say it wrong. For example, until very recently, I was still saying Samhain. So I'm not even going to try and say that one. Like, my best guess is that it is Lunisad, but I'm probably way off. Like, I don't know. I don't, and I don't want to butcher it any more than I already have. So the keyword for that is prosperity. And this, I believe, is a grain harvest festival, or maybe a sowing festival, but I think it's probably a harvest festival because the keyword is prosperity. So it seems like you are reaping abundance and prosperity. Okay, we have Maban, balance. We have Magic Circle, protection. I really love the artwork for this card. To me, it is just so beautiful. I love those boots too. Like, I wish they were real. All right, we have Moon, and the keyword is cycles. Now see, if you look, like, I don't think there are really people here. It almost looks like they got 3 wigs and then put cloaks, and I don't think there's real people under that hair. I could be entirely wrong, but this is what I mean about this sort of CGI nature of the artwork, that it's sometimes it looks very fake and not so well done, and other times it works. I mean, most of the time it works. I think it kind of toes the line between sort of uncanny valley, obvious CGI, and less so. All right, we have Ostara and incubation, pentacle and respect, ritual and invocation. I really like this card also. We have Samhain and death. And remember, I said Samhain earlier. Apparently it is pronounced Samhain. And yeah, the keyword is death. And here's another one where the art looks very sort of cheesy CGI, but somehow it still works. It still manages to pull the scene together to work. But if you pick out individual elements, like the jack-o'-lanterns there, they do look a little off. You have to be honest. Okay, scrying mirror, and the keyword is shadow. And it's a really beautiful mirror. I've been wanting to get me some, an obsidian mirror or something to give this a shot, and I haven't had the money or the good fortune yet. Okay, we have spell, and the keyword is manifestation. And there is actually sort of a spell on this card. If you want to pause, you're welcome to read it. Okay, you have spirit, one of the 5 elements, and initiation. Staff and stability. I really like the keyword for this also. Okay, I love that this is a card in here. I really do. So this is a very new religion thing, I think, because I don't know of any ancient religions that used tarot cards. So, but yes, we have tarot cards, and the keyword is guidance. So, and I really love this, and it features cards from this deck that actually could be tarot cards. We have the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Cups, we have the Tower here, the Ace of Wands over here. So yeah, I think it's really well done. I like it. Okay, next we have Wand, and the keyword is intention. Then Watchtower of the East, and the keyword is spring. Watchtower of the North, and the keyword is winter. Watchtower of the South, and the keyword is summer. Watchtower of the West, and the keyword is autumn. Then we have water, and the keyword is cleansing. We have the Wiccan Reed, and it has the reed on here. Bide the Wiccan law ye must, in perfect love, in perfect trust. That is a very old saying that is not used as often anymore. 8 words the Wiccan Reed fulfill, and ye harm none, do as ye will. And and ever mind the rule of 3. Sorry, between the glare and the, let's see. Okay, here we go. And ever mind the rule of 3. What ye send out, come back to thee. Follow this with mind and heart, and merry ye meet, and merry ye part. The keyword here is ethos, which I find very interesting. This, again, is another polarizing topic in the magical communities, because some people really strongly adhere to this, and others say, I don't believe in karma, I don't believe in the rule of 3, the reed, etc. So, and again, I might be saying that word wrong, R-E-D-E. That's just how I say it, reed. I have no idea how it's actually meant to be pronounced, so I apologize if I'm totally butchering these terms. Okay, next we have witch, and the keyword is healer. And again, I love this keyword for this card. I think it is wonderful. Definitely presents a more positive, wholesome image of the witch. Okay, then we have the witch's cottage. The keyword is security. Then we have witch's hat, and the keyword is power. Yule, and the keyword is rebirth. And that is the final card in the deck. So, in terms of how this deck would shuffle, because the cards slide easily and the card stock is not super thick, I would say that it probably shuffles very nicely. If you've watched any of my tarot readings, you know that I don't shuffle my cards. The typical riffle shuffle and so on. I have carpal tunnel, so I really can't. I don't have the dexterity or the strength in my hands to do all of that. So, with all of that out of the way, again, I do want to make it clear that I actually recommend this deck. It is very unique among Oracle decks. It has a nice variety of cards with different meanings. I think it would really add something to anyone who collects Oracle decks to your collection with its unique take on diversity. Because, let's be honest, a lot of Oracle decks tend to repeat themselves. They have the same handful of 44 keywords, just different art on the cards, or maybe, a few different words, keywords for the cards, etc. This one, I think, is really unique And I think it's overall very well done. I just have a few issues with the book and some of the claims made by the authors, but you know, it's fine. It's not the worst I've ever read. So, all of that said, again, I do love this deck. I'm very much looking forward to using it more, and I'm glad that I picked it up. I recommend it to anyone who might be interested in it, because I think it is a very well done deck. And with that, I think that's about all I have to say concerning the deck. So, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I'm sorry I went off on so many tangents and rambled a little bit, but hopefully it wasn't that awful. If you enjoyed this video, you know, please consider leaving a like and comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you have the deck? What are your thoughts on the guidebook? You know, did this sort of Burning Times ideas bother you also, or did they not stand out? You know, let me know what you think. Please, you know, share your thoughts on the cards. Does the artwork work for you? Yes or no? And if you would like to join me for a future video, I do tarot readings 3 times a week. I do deck reviews twice a week. So, you know, hopefully I'll have a little something for everyone. And, you know, so consider subscribing if you'd like to join me again for another video. And until then, take care, my friends. Thank you again for watching.